I do usually, yeah. Generally, what we referring to exactly?
Man, I've been doing this, like I'm doing this with you after such a long time. Like, I've been doing Yehudi sausage मैंने बीच में छोड़ दी थी और
Acha.
मैं बहुत बहुत देर बाद start कर रहा हूँ. So I've forgotten how to even I think conduct a podcast anymore. But we're gonna go through this.
Yeah.
Um, but in particular, what I'm talking about is कि जो हो रहा है यार, these ongoing harassment cases in Pakistan that are coming out, and then now bullying cases are coming out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, it's like fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then even like I read your article that you wrote for us,
Mm-hmm.
the Vice one, and yeah, that was a really, I think people should read it. That shows a lot, I think, about this one segment of our society that we think, यार ये तो ये नहीं करते हैं, पढ़े लिखे हैं, But that kind of shows कि how this problem has nothing to do with money or whatever. Rather, it's worse when there is money involved or there's power involved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would like to know your take on all that. हम यूजी समझ में यही करते हैं. We just really dive into it, like put you on the spot.
No, I love it. I'm all for this. But as you know, I'm a writer, so I don't know if my speaking abilities are up to par, but give it a try. So, anyway, so yeah, so are you speaking about what's happening with like LUMS and the LGS 1A1?
Yeah, or whatever because I feel there's so much coming out. Like you can't keep a track these days. Like there's that Facebook group, and
Yeah.
just people are posting on it. And we can talk later about like even about that. कि just क्या
Mhm.
अंधाधुन हर बंदा आके बंदा report कर दे and stuff.
Mhm.
We can talk about that later as well. But yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, on the topic of sexual harassment and
and by the way, one more thing. इस
mhm.
podcast के अंदर you can literally talk about anything. You can go to another tangent. I will not stop you. That
Perfect. This is probably gonna happen.
so,
Okay, so yeah, so regarding the sexual harassment allegations, like in particular with LGS 1A1, from my understanding, they have fired three male teachers who've been.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. They have fired three male teachers.
Mhm.
Um, three male, yeah, right? Two
Yeah,
to I know definitely.
yeah,
The MUN guy and the professor.
yeah.
But I don't know about the third guy.
Okay, yeah. So I mean,
Let me
it's
check actually. I'm
sure.
curious now. But go on. I'm checking.
Nay, so yeah, no, like what's interesting to me is also there's this guy from Pakistan who's at York who has also been.
Yeah, that's what I also want to talk about.
Yeah, so that, yeah, exactly. Like it's really interesting how these issues amongst the Pakistani community aren't pertinent to being within Pakistan. You know, it's about like movement and.
Okay, so LGS fires four teachers.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's that chemistry guy,
Huh.
the MUN guy, there's some other professor, and then some student, yeah, also accused Myra Umair Rana. So yeah, dude, it's so fucked up, right? Like the story is basically this. They're saying this Umair Rana's wife
Mhm.
kind of knew what was going on,
Wow.
and she was like mums about it, or she didn't say
Amazing.
stuff.
Amazing. That's wonderful. Yeah, so this is another thing that I'd like to talk about is how women are implicit in this sort of like male violence, you know, like patriarchal violence is not just, and I've written about this, it's not just conducted by men. Women are also implicit in this, and especially in a very patriarchal society like Pakistan, where men, I suppose, are, it's the norm for men to be like the decision makers in the household and in government and politics. So it's yeah, so you what ends up happening is you have a patriarchal society where a lot of women are also partaking in this patriarchal violence. And on the topic of LGS 1A1, so I was a student at LGS 1A1 in 7th and 8th grade. And while I wasn't aware of any male teachers sexually assaulting or harassing students at that time. What I was aware of, and something that I actually had I had a Facebook conversation with someone, another student, former student that I knew at the time in that specific branch. So we were like, yeah, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
And yeah, I recently spoke to her about this, given everything that's come up about that branch and generally like what's happening. And one thing that we both knew of at the time was that women, like our female teachers, while they weren't like sexually assaulting us, they were like still giving into patriarchal violence and shaming us. They were shaming us if we wore kajal or if we dressed a certain way to like, school events, that sort of thing. Like they were extremely misogynistic in their thinking. And for an all girls school, like how is that a healthy environment? You know?
Yeah. I think that's what it is, right? These problems are like मैं वही सोच रहा था कि there is no like yeah, they're the people who actually carry out the act, they
Mhm.
are to be blamed. But it's a much, much larger story than that, It starts from like I don't know, like I feel even the case of bullying. People do bullying, usually जो bully करते हैं वो bully खुद हुए होते हैं, you
Mhm.
know? Like you learn from that, you feel that is okay, probably these teachers वो एक टाइम पे स्टूडेंट्स होंगे और उनको यही बताया गया होगा कि लड़कियां यही तरीके है, ये प्रॉपर तरीका है, लड़कियों ने हमेशा अंग्रेजी बोलनी है बड़े सलीके से और इस तरह चलना है और लड़कों ने इसी तरह चलना है,
Mhm.
लड़कों ने ये नहीं करना वो नहीं करना एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, and
Mhm.
these were things that probably they were taught, and these are the values they created, and I feel these are things that, and it's really important कि अगर इसके solution के लिए we can't just be like okay, case shut, we caught the people, case shut, we cancel another few people and it's end of it. No, it's a
Mhm.
conversation, it's a tough conversation, and it's a
Yeah.
conversation where you can't blatantly say oh yeah, you know what, this woman was just wrong for telling us to stop, because that's not going to solve anything. There is something going in her mind, right? She's not going to be like today she woke up and she's going to be like nahi, आज मैंने रोकना है जिन लड़कियों ने काजल पहनी है. That's my aim today. This didn't happen like that, right? It probably there was something that happened in her life that probably made her think that, and it's
Yeah.
really important to go there and what made us think that,
Yeah. So I think that a lot of it is like a projection of trauma. And I think that once you don't process something that's happened to you, you start projecting it onto other people like autopilot.
Yeah.
Um, and on the topic of like these gender segregated schools, like obviously, LGS is a big one. If we're speaking about Lahore in particular, HSN is a big one. And both of these schools are known for their toxic masculinity and femininity, both. Because what these schools have done is they've created this binary of masculine and feminine, right? By segregating genders. So this is a whole different, like, it's a bit more theoretical, but it's also something that should be considered when, critically talking, discussing these issues.
Yeah, go
As
on. I'm interested.
okay, yeah. So that's one thing, and it's not a surprise that like, there's all this shit being talked about boys who go to HSN, right? Like historically, this has been known that there's a certain environment of toxic masculinity in HSN that's just kind of circulated. And it's not to say that every kid who goes to HSN is like that sort of upper
Yeah, of
class.
course not.
Of course not, right? But there has been a certain culture in that school that's been upheld since its colonial inauguration jo bhi tha, right? Which is also very problematic. And it's also a question of like what kind of men is that school producing in terms of ideology. And I think that's really important too, like questioning that, like. And I've recently seen more things come up about HSN, like on social media and stuff. And as someone
Like
who's
I've
known,
heard for a fact कि एचिसंस के जो डॉर्म्स वगैरह होते हैं वो जो उनका हॉस्टल जो भी होता है,
huh?
supposedly that's like a den for like shitload of like fuck up stuff happening, like
Oh,
बहुत fucked up
absolutely.
चीजें उधर हुई हैं, like harassment and yeah, like
Oh,
we've gotten
dude,
DM from
boys get
people
raped. Boys get raped in HSN by
and
other
they don't
boys.
talk about it, and
Of
they
course
don't talk
not.
about it because it's like shame.
It's shame. Yeah. Imagine like a woman getting raped is already like, oh, is it chali gay? Imagine like a guy, because that's just how fucked up like our society is, let's be
And
honest.
to be very honest, the school, I don't, it doesn't even have to be honest. वो जो लोग बड़ा कहते हैं ना कोई बड़ी पढ़ाई वो, it has very stupid and like shit standards.
Huh, fuck.
Like अगर आप किसी पॉलिटिशियन उसके बेटे हो, आप कभी निकलोगे ही नहीं. आई नो
Yeah.
फॉर अ फैक्ट चौधरी निसार का बेटा होता था उधर.
Huh.
बदतमीज, उसको कोई 2-3 दफा निकाल दिया था उसने, लोगों को कोई उसकी लड़ाई शड़ाई हुई थी उसकी वहीं
Huh.
एचएसएन में ही लोगों से,
Hmm.
और उसको निकाला था और वापस आ जाता था क्योंकि वो चौधरी निसार का बेटा.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these
No,
are
you
all
maybe.
things, and
Yeah.
these are like they are not good institutions. Like, oh sure, man, like you can go to HSN. There's nothing to be now. There's nothing to be proud of if you get
Yeah.
into HSN. Like
Absolutely not.
that's
It's all
bad.
about Safarish,
It's
right?
all about Safarish. There's
This is
nothing
Safarish culture.
like yeah. Plus, I've always found I've always found like not like I have some like I have a lot of friends from HSN as well, but to be honest, I say them on their faces like some there's some cultures are weird. Like वो हमेशा एक चीज करते थे किसी भी स्कूल में आके ना किसी एमयूएन के अंदर आके सारे HSN के बॉयज ने एकदम एसी एसी एसी, और वो ना इतना फनी होता है क्योंकि एशियन के बॉयज ज़्यादातर सेम लगती हैं.
Yeah.
उसमें कोई एक मेरे साथ एक बच्चा होता था मुझे याद है स्कूल के अंदर, एंड दिस वाज इन साइक. तो वो ना ग्रेड 4 में होता था, कहता मैं एक दफ़ा ज़िंदगी में ना ग्रेड 4 में एशियन पढ़ा था और उसके
Mm.
बाद निकल गया था, कुछ हो गया था भाई, वो पूरी ज़िंदगी कहता रहा यार आई एम एन एजिसोनियन, मैं तो एजिसोनियन ना. लाइक ब्रो क्या तू
इतना proudly कहते हैं ये
Oh,
बंदे
and they
like,
have nothing to be proud of.
yeah, it's really not. It's really not. And you know, and there are men who've gone to Aegison who can actually accept that, because
But I
I.
feel that's also, you know what, that, and I would say that's not everyone. I feel that's kind of a personality trait. Like होते हैं कुछ. I remember like there are some people who are really like they take their university very seriously. There are some people in Lums like that as well. They're like, I'm from Lums, you know,
Mm,
like that's my personality.
mhm.
That's my fucking, that's how I am. Like, you know, like it's
Yeah.
you walking around, you're like, yeah, I'm York, yeah. What do you do? I'm York. I do York.
Yeah.
Like, and that is a personality. I think that's just marzi mein ho. That's just freaking annoying.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Little bit. It is a little bit weird to affiliate yourself with institutions, and it's the same thing with
but I'll,
nationalism, right?
but I'll go back. I'll go back to the toxic thing, and you said it's theoretical. So I want to know more about the theory part of it. Like how
Okay.
does it start? Like what is that one thing? If even that's like I guess culture does over time. You can go that's history. कि कैसे how हमारा makeup बनाया गया, society चीजें बनाई गई. But what do you think is the solution now though to all this? Because you have written a lot about this.
Yeah. Solution is coffee heavy. I mean, but honestly, like what the thing that I have tried to reiterate in my articles through my writing is like there is no correct way of being. Like there is no like like Pakistan, the name itself, right? Pakistan is a very ideological state, and this was even said by Zia in a quote, where he said that Pakistan basically runs on ideology, because like without religion it would just fall apart, like as a secular state, and he compared it to Israel. And obviously like Zia is Zia, so but the thing is that sort of like thinking has, if it hasn't been religious ideology, it was nationalistic ideology, because Bangladesh genocide, essentially it was genocide, happened before Zia, his peak, and that was like fueled on nationalistic ideology ki ye log are different than us, they want to speak a different language, blah blah blah. um, so the thing that I've tried to stress on is that there's no right way of being. There's no perfect citizen. There's no such a perfect identity. And the word natural itself, like what is natural? Like you know what I mean? Like who is to say, okay, this is right and this is wrong? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get what you mean. Um, but I'm just like, as someone, like how I just like I feel I don't even know what the right question is because I feel there's so many cases. Like, how do we, as a society, with what's happening? Because you're someone I also know has been on the receiving end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And harassment and everything aside, you have been on the receiving end of even writing something. How do we go ahead with all this? Like, what does it all, I don't know, what does it all mean is a weird way to put it. But like, what we know now is basically everyone in every school almost got harassed.
Mm-hmm.
Harassment was like basically a common thing going on. People, it was like a thing.
Yeah.
It was like, you were going to one of the biggest schools in Lahore. अभी तो मुझे लगता है इस्लामाबाद कराची के निकले ही नहीं. वो तो
Yeah.
आएंगे अभी. पता
Of
नहीं
course.
वहाँ क्या क्या हुआ. ये तो अभी सिर्फ लाहौर के schools आए हैं. So
Huh.
how do we change this? Because like सारे gatekeepers तो नहीं निकाले जाएंगे.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't think कि सारे schools में इतना कोई action होगा.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't think just throwing these teachers away is just gonna solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like how do we change? How do we go about it? Yeah. And
Well,
my
I,
other question
yeah.
would also be, and I would also ask you about this as well, because I feel this is also important in a society like Pakistan,
Mm-hmm.
where our knowledge, and I feel Islamic conversations are very important, where our
Mm-hmm.
knowledge about things about sex education
Huh.
are very important.
Extremely.
Um,
It's essential. Like sex is a natural act. It's essential.
Exactly, like everything apart. Like, you can have the moral emphasis on, whatever, यार आप conservative बंदा भी आप देख लो, ठीक है, वो कहेगा यार, whatever, sex before marriage, after marriage, whatever everyone talks about. The thing is, everyone will agree on one point though, कि nobody wants their loved ones or themselves to be unnecessarily groped, touched, or raped. I
Mm-hmm.
think we all can agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everyone we can agree on that. And I don't see how, even if we I think contest it, ये यहाँ बातों हर बात के पीछे आपको सोचना पड़ता है. And that's also another problem. But the fact is, even in a society like Pakistan, telling people about getting them aware about देखें, getting them aware about their bodies, and not just their bodies, I feel getting them aware about what happens in a society कि
Mm-hmm.
खुदा ना पता तो होना चाहिए, क्योंकि आई डोंट थिंक कि ओ लेवल से नीचे, ओ
Mm-hmm.
लेवल वगैरह से नीचे, ओ लेवल में भी बच्चे अपने खुद सारे तरीके से some people watch porn and some people just go and do shit and just learn, but nobody ever in Pakistan talks about it. Like, know your parents है खुद. हो सकता है पाकिस्तान में माँ बाप आपसे आके बात करेंगे, मतलब
Mm-hmm.
साथ घर पे कि यार चलो बेटा बताओ, आपसे पूछना चाहते हैं. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel that is one of the reasons why especially girls wouldn't have ever gone to their parents and talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, like I just thought of it, like, and that shouldn't be the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the culture of silence, right? It's been normalized. This
But
keep silent, huh?
my problem is कि even like there is no solution. Even if we say यार इसका solution and we know it, we both can talk about it. Sex education might also be one of the solutions. People
Yeah.
knowing, being more aware of their surroundings, knowing even about, it's not about even sex education. यार चलो आप उस पे ना, आप सिर्फ generally बताना शुरू कर दो
Mm-hmm.
about जैसे एक दो स्कूल में right touch, bad touch, छोटे बच्चों को ये बताना शुरू कर दो, और आप आगे जाके ये you can at least have the discussion, man. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like you can say the word protection, like medical store में फिर भी मिल रहा है, आप ना भी बोलोगे उनको पता तो चल जाएगा, but at least you would have made them aware, you know. and
Yeah.
it this and I यार आप सारा छोड़ दो, मैं कह रहा हूँ सिर्फ इतना ही स्टार्ट कर दो कि इससे like there should be some kind of counsel in a school जो privately बच्चों से बात कर ले. आप public नहीं ना कराओ, आपको मसला है public नहीं कराओ, but there should be some kind, like we should be moving towards it in some way. But I don't think that is, I feel that is impossible to think of कि पाकिस्तान में ऐसी चीज होगी right now.
Well, the thing with that is, so the problem is obviously that would be ideal ke counseling ho jaye and that sort of thing, but the issue is ke even with that sort of stuff, like people would still bringing their own biases and their own baggage, and it's like, for example, like around surrounding abortions in Pakistan. The thing is that doctors who can perform these abortions, end up bringing their own religious beliefs into it and saying कि like मैं नहीं कर सकता हूँ because of religion, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's possible that it could be the same with counseling, which could be even more problematic. I remember I went
True,
to
वैसे. That is true. I didn't think of that.
yeah, that's the thing, right? And the thing is कि um, I went to a therapist in Islamabad when I was 15 or 16 years old. And I was under the impression I was a minor, but I was still under the impression that, she wouldn't tell my father everything. And she ended up telling him everything. And that's another thing of that whole like parental sort of like power is that is it really going to remain confidential? Like hardly anything remains confidential in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So there are all these are almost like moral dilemmas that need to be addressed and assessed. And just to go back a bit on like what you were talking about regarding like male sexuality almost, right? Is
Yeah.
that like men are socialized differently. They're not really socialized to love their bodies or respect their bodies or to practice certain things like self-love and empathy and all these things that are really important for society to actually get to a better place. And that's a big thing when it comes to like violence towards women or children or other minorities in comparison to straight men, is that like they're not taught how to respect their own bodies, so they project that, right, with violence.
And in what way, when you say we are not prone to protect our bodies, like man, that's like, or no, understand this more.
So the thing is, from my own like research on this topic, is that like in feminist theory specifically, it's Bell Hooks. She's a black feminist scholar. So she has written about how men aren't socialized the same way that women are, like as children, young children. Um, because of certain aspects like for example like there's been a time, and it's still very prominent in Pakistan, where men have like emotionally unavailable fathers. Like this is just military ka itna bada thing hai ke the military has produced these men who are very detached emotionally, and a lot of sons and daughters, like a lot of children are like they're around these emotionally detached fathers. And it's from my own understanding of like the psychological impacts of that, especially on boys who are taught to socialize like more so by their fathers, right? Like just let's just say generally, like normatively, it's like you go to your dad, and when your dad is like has this like embodiment of like like what so in Pakistan, like a good citizen, like maybe not so much anymore, was somebody who behaved like a soldier, right? Like had that militaristic sort of vibe going on. And it's not really great for forming like loving attachments with the people around you, to be very honest. It's yeah, as I've experienced it as well, it's very hard and cold and callous, and it's this whole concept of tough love or whatever people think it is. It's not helpful.
No,
So
I get it. I get that.
yeah.
But do you think people don't have the option to share with their moms?
Yeah, so of course, like again, I'm not talking about every single mother in Pakistan because that
Yeah.
would be absurd. But generally, like from what I have heard and experienced and personally and all this, um, the thing is that because we live in a patriarchal society, where I already mentioned that women are implicit in this violence, so basically it's like, for example, like I also wrote this in my article, it's like women who pick on their own daughters, who bully their own daughters, right? Because where does bullying start? Bullying starts when you see it in the home, let's be honest. Like, how do you learn how to bully, right? Either you've been bullied throughout school or you learn it in the home. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing is that people have narcissistic parents, like it's a thing. And the thing is that let's say you have a narcissistic father, for example, um, which again is definitely not just a common occurrence in Pakistan but anywhere, right? um, And there's a high possibility that your wife, especially like in a society in Pakistan where divorce amongst older communities is still considered taboo, right? Like people who get divorced, a lot of communities still look down upon it. And so what in turn happens is that the wife is then like complicit in the father's, like, violence, in the sense that like she becomes like almost like his partner in what he's doing that's wrong. And I've heard that. I've heard stories of women in Pakistan who have been sexually assaulted, who have been molested, who have gone to their mothers and tried to tell them, even going to tell them the truth is very hard because excuse me, I was molested when I was a young child, and it took me 5 years to be able to tell my parents. Because as a child, you think if something wrong is happening to you, like for me at least, I thought that it was my fault. कि मैंने गलती की, ये मेरी गलती है. I messed up.
Or you
And
just sometimes just embarrassed. It's not even. I just
yeah,
yeah. I think you just don't want to. I don't know. What was like. You know.
it's true. It's like, how do you say कि like, oh, ye hua? You know what I mean? Like, how do you explain?
Yeah.
It's really awkward, right? Because again, we don't have sex education. We're not educated on our bodies. We're not taught anything about anything, you know?
Yeah. No. I think it boils it like we're kids, man. You know. Now you think about it, you're like, yeah, man. Like ये बताना चाहिए था. But at that time, you're like, it's just you're a kid. You know.
Yeah, that's true. And you really don't know any better. So, and the thing is that I have heard stories of women who were younger and had, the bravery to be able to open up about it to their mothers, and their mothers would just silence it, like, just no, because it happened to them and they were also told the same thing, give us, like, silence it. And of course there are other stories obviously there are other stories where another thing happens where something is done about it, right? And the child is validated, which is obviously extremely important and necessary for,
Were
like.
your parents? What was your parents' reaction?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I told my mother when I was older, and she was extremely shocked, and she like went back to the place where it happened, and she tried to find the man who did it, but she couldn't. She tried to literally hunt him down, but wasn't able to find him.
Yeah. No. I still hope he gets found. मतलब.
I hope so too. I really do, because yeah.
Yeah. No. No. But yeah, and that's the thing, right? Okay, and I feel your case is one of
Yeah.
um, so many that people around us have just not even spoken about it because it's one of those things that you don't like and you can't even blame people who don't. It's difficult. It's difficult, especially when it happens to you as a child.
Hmm.
I think it's extra difficult.
Absolutely, and it happens in so many spaces. Like the most common, when you're a young child, is actually it's within your own family, like according to statistics. But excuse me, it could be anybody. Like I have heard stories of Kari Saabs, like
Yeah.
yeah, this is the thing.
Yeah,
It
like
happens.
madrasa में common है पता है लोगों को this
Mm.
happens,
Yeah.
but we just turn the other way around because like you know and I feel that kind of mentality is inbuilt us even
Mm.
of this hypocrisy.
Yes.
जैसे हम चाइना को नहीं कुछ कहेंगे मुसलमान मारने के लिए लेकिन इसराइल को जरूर कहेंगे
Yeah.
चाइना मार सकता है चाइना यार कोई नहीं थोड़े मार दे ये लो
Oh,
हमारे भी ले जा थोड़े से
yeah.
इन्हें
Yes.
भी मार दे आ, ये लोग इतने अच्छे नहीं so it's but that's inbuilt in us and that's why I'm not really surprised this happens like I feel so many and you're right so many times like your mother went and went after this dude but I feel there's so many people whose families have actually shut them off they're like
Mm.
क्या मतलब पागल चुप.
Yeah.
But at this and I also feel at that time even that's the same question right उन parents ने भी I want to know their thinking that went in why they stopped because who knows maybe something happened to them
Exactly.
and they were told to stop and this just shit cycle continued and continued and continued.
Exactly. Spot on. Yeah. They were gaslit by their own parents or elders, and they're gaslighting their own children. Kenny, your reality is bakwas to put.
क्योंकि if they accept their child's reality, they'll probably be accepting their reality.
But they have denied it and repressed it for so long, shoved it under the
Exactly.
rug. They're like, nay, I can't.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is literally Pakistan. Like, this is literally a
Oh yeah,
Pakistan.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was built on shame, dude, and like
Yeah.
regret and loss and all these, you know. Yeah.
I know, I know. हम डिक्टेटरशिप के खिलाफ नहीं हो सकते अगर खिलाफ हो तो उनके मुशर्रफ के भी खिलाफ होना होगा it's one
Exactly.
of those.
Exactly. तो यही मसला है कि the thing is कि it's like Pakistan, right? Pakistan, land of pure. ठीक है, but what I have learned is that purity is not a thing. Like it doesn't actually exist. What is pure? Like who is pure? Pakistan mein like nobody is a pure Pakistani. There's no
Yeah.
such thing.
I don't think there's a pure human being in the world.
हमारे में सब गंद है or like not even
Ah.
gand, like it's not even gand though, it's just how we are, like whatever we perceive as gand सब में है, like everybody has dirty thoughts, everybody
Maybe
has.
I feel maybe even Dalai Lama ने कभी कभार maybe in anger कभी कह दिया किसी को आंख भी stare भी कर दिया the death stare.
Of course, 'cause we're all.
maybe he also had that moment.
Yeah, exactly, because we're all
जब इतना चाइना मसले कर रहा था I'm sure he must have got pissed. He'll be like
yeah,
screw you
exactly.
guys.
Exactly. And the whole problem with this whole purity thing is that, it goes off of the idea, this very colonial idea, that everybody needs to be heterosexual and everybody needs to be in a two-parent household. Like this is the family model, right? And
Yeah.
I've also talked about this in my article. And and so when you do that, you're basically like marginalizing and ostracizing like religious minorities, the LGBTQ community, like so many other minorities are just like, ha, tum insan nahi ho. Like that's basically what is being said. You're not a human being. Like even fat people are seen as less human, right? And it's yeah, it's just kali ho, like, oh,
Oh
you're
yeah.
like
तो
all
यार
this.
हम अभी तक endorse करते हैं brands. अब ये महविश हयात है. महविश हयात को मिला है अभी ये जो award मिला है पाकिस्तान में काफी prestigious.
Yeah.
उसने एक गाना गाया हुआ है. गाने में डांस किया हुआ है जिसका नाम है फेयर एंड लवली. फेयर एंड लवली ने एक गाना स्पॉन्सर किया था जिसमें आई थिंक पूरा वो गाना ये है कि पता नहीं वो फेयर भी है तो लवली भी है. It's like a whole movie song and I feel महविश हयात is in it.
Yuck, yaar. ये तो मसला है. Like, look at all our celebrities. They're all like
They're all the same.
fair skinned, long hair, light colored. ये बकवास bullshit, yaar. Like, I'm so sick of seeing the same looking actresses. And I'm not trying to shit on their talent. I'm sure, they have wonderful talent. But, it's just, I'm getting sick of seeing the same looking women, honestly. And
Okay, no, I don't think it's Mavik Hayat.
Hmm.
This is which actress is this? We'll just put the picture here. I don't know what her name is, but I just know she's fair.
Yeah,
That's
like
that's her
majority of
only.
them.
That's her only thing to get.
Hair, thin, yeah, like this is.
Literally her facial, like literally her skin color was the role. उन्होंने बुशरा अंसारी को भी और गोरा किया हुआ है. सबको white face किया हुआ है.
Oh my God, I can't anymore. Honestly, I'm so sick of this shit. Like, it's pathetic.
Shit. कौन एक्ट्रेस है इसका नाम जानना चाहता हूँ ढूंढ लूंगा बाद में बट और हुमायूं सईद ऑफ कोर्स 50 साल की है और लग भी रहा है लेकिन नहीं मेरे और वो ज्यादा डांस भी नहीं कर पा रहा है रियली फनी को आई थिंक वो नहीं कर सकता तो ना मजे इस तरह करता है वो सारा डांस करती है फिर वो हाथ उसका ये करता है फिर वो थोड़ा डांस करती है दोबारा
Oof, ये हालात है, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting you put role of media तो आते ही आते हैं मतलब you have TV shows and I feel it all contributes right मतलब you have shows like आमिर लियाकत जिसमें वो बच्चे adoption के लिए दे रहा है free आदमियों का मुंह मार रहा है आम के अंदर that's the kind of society like we live in right बच्चे मिलते हैं free के अंदर जीत सकते हैं so it's not like a normal stabilized society at the moment right
Yeah.
we're going through a patch we're going through a time where You know,
Yeah.
we don't know whether we're going to Medina or whether we're going to Vegas. You know, it's like a weird time, and in between there is ISIS. You know, I feel that's the conundrum Pakistan lives in right now.
Yeah. I agree.
और बीच में कोरोना भी आ गया, so it's really crazy right now.
It is.
Um,
Man,
but
Corona, Pakistan, dude.
that's what I'm saying. As a society which is like this, what I just described,
Yeah.
and you're saying, no one is pure. This brings me to the other point of this cancel culture. You know,
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
there are now low coach definitely, man, like people who are putting hands on them, fuck them, block them, forget the key. You're harassing your students while you're in a position of power and making them do stuff. You're a teacher and you're having a relationship, even if it's a consensual relationship with a school student, you are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you cannot. You have to be above it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not like the 20th century. You knew this. There is
Mm-hmm.
no excuse, right? कुछ लोगों को पता है, कोई excuse नहीं है ना, वो पता है. You know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We can never be able to guess कि उसका consent सही है नहीं है. But at the same time, I feel there needs to be some kind of, and I'm very against gatekeepers, but here I feel there should be not a gatekeeper, but some credible source जिसके through ये आनी चाहिए allegations. Because at the same time, I've also heard, and you might have also noticed, that some allegations came जो बस अंधाधुंध थी, जो बाद में लोगों ने retract भी कर ली.
Mm.
There was one and I feel this is really important to even talk about this. Um, there was one I read which was about emotional abuse. एक बंदे ने ना मुझे मेरे साथ रिलेशनशिप में था, there was my ex, और that person उसने कहा कि that person supposedly emotionally abused her in उसको उसको कभी ऑनेस्ट सच्चा नहीं था उसके साथ, लाइक नो मारना चाहना नथिंग. आई थिंक दे वर जस्ट उनके मैस फोन पे ही उनकी बातचीत थी,
Mm.
and that's about it. Yeah, Jesse B, pata nahi, but the word emotional abuse was used, nothing else.
Okay.
And I feel that's such a vague term, man. It's such a vague term. I can
Emotional abuse.
emotional abuse because like देखो किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप बात कर रहे हो, राइट?
Mm-hmm.
एज अ चाइल्ड पेरेंट्स का आपको लॉक कर देना घर के अंदर, थ्रेट करना कि मैं आपको मार दूंगा, ये कर दूंगा, दैट्स legit emotional abuse. लेकिन
Yeah.
अगर आप किसी रिलेशनशिप में हो विद एज स्पेशली एज इन यूनिवर्सिटी,
Mm-hmm.
फर्स्ट यूनिवर्सिटी, टू
Mm-hmm.
ईयर की रिलेशनशिप में हो, बहुत सारी ऐसी रिलेशनशिप्स हैं यार जिसमें पीपल आर जस्ट लाइक फाइटिंग विद ईच अदर. you know we even can call it a toxic relationship. They're just fighting over texting. That's how generation is. हर बंदा
Mm-hmm.
एक दूसरे पे शक करता है. There's social media, there's like way too much, like there's zero privacy.
Yeah.
But can we, in A person B have a relationship for like 6 months, 7 months in university, and A and B say, B says, this A was emotionally abusing me, and her or him even, him and her both, their prerogative is कि यार क्योंकि इन्होंने मेरा टेक्स्ट का जवाब नहीं दिया, फोन पे बात नहीं की, and even maybe cheat किया, sure. Uh, but can we count that as harassment? Because I've seen a lot of these kind of posts coming in as well. That's my first question. Can we count something like that as harassment? Second, I've also seen there are a lot of people. मुझे एक बच्चे का मैसेज आया इस पे, एंड व्हाइल वी वर रिपोर्टिंग ऑन दिस, एंड आई वाज लाइक, मुझे बड़ा हुआ यार, लाइक आई रेड दैट मैसेज, ही सेंट मी स्क्रीनशॉट. सपोजिटली कोई 16 ईयर ओल्ड, आई थिंक 15 ईयर ओल्ड किड था, जिसका कोई उसका और लड़की का कोई वो नहीं होती थी, वो हमारे टाइम में MSN रिलेशनशिप, उनकी कोई
Mm-hmm.
टेक्स्ट मैसेज पे ना बस बातचीत शुरू हुई. वो स्कूल में थे लेकिन बात नहीं करते, टेक्स्ट मैसेज बात करते थे. उसने वो बस सपोजिटली उसने गर्लफ्रेंड थी, वो इतना यार इतना फनी सीन था, वो बेचारे वो दोनों समझे कि बस वो बात कर रही हैं. उसने उसने उसके बारे में स्टेटस लगा दिया कि इसने मुझे हरास किया है. फिर उसने स्क्रीनशॉट्स दिखाई कि यार हरास उसने क्या कहा था. उसने उसको कहा कि पता नहीं आई वाज विद अनदर गर्ल, को असली में कहता है वो कभी भी इसके साथ हुआ ही नहीं, मतलब टेक्स्ट पे उसने किसी और को टेक्स्ट किया. और
Mm-hmm.
वो बच्चे के ऊपर इतना प्रेशर आ गया. आई डोंट नो व्हाट हैज हैपेंड, लाइक आई वुड वांट टू नो मोर. But as 16 and 15-year-old के लिए यार कोई बंदा लिखते फेसबुक वगैरह पे, you're
Mm-hmm.
cancelled, you're fucking cancelled. What
Yeah.
will that kid go through, man? Like sure, but that's fucked up. Like I can imagine a kid, like if I was 15 और मैं देखता यार मेरे हर जगह लिखा हो cancelled, you know,
Mm-hmm.
और लोग बातें करें, and people can be vicious, man. People on the internet can be rude,
Oh,
Zara.
especially teenagers, man. Fuck teenagers.
वो
They're
बताऊँ
the
तो क्या
worst.
मैसेजेस आ रहे थे, तुम
Yeah.
अपने को मार दो. वो मुझे ये दिखा रहा था उसका दोस्त कि उसको मैसेजेस आ रहे हैं, किल योर सेल्फ.
Yeah,
That's that's fucked up, especially in these days, man.
very fucked up. You can't fucking go around saying that to people.
Yeah, and so yeah, like I don't know, like how do we? That is what I really want to know. How do we grapple with this? Like how do we make like this? I think this needs some kind of introspection. Like there needs to be like somebody like Nigat Dutt, somebody of that credibility, of checking. There's some kind. There has to be some kind of validity and measure.
Well, the thing is that,
Movement as well. No.
I mean, the thing is that they're really like, it's hard to validate these sort of things like through another source, and it can't just be one person. It has to be like a cultural collective change.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. What
Yeah.
I'm saying
Hmm.
that I would hold more credibility if
Hmm.
it was coming from, say, a verified source, publication, or a organization which people trust, rather than somebody just sharing posts. Because I was talking to my friend, I was talking to this graphic designer. उसने कहा यार, it takes 1 minute for him to create a fake Snapchat, get a fake Instagram, get a fake WhatsApp. Get I don't even need to do graphic designing. You just need to change your account name. मैं 1 मिनट में अंदर दिखाऊंगा फेक बना सकता हूँ.
Yeah.
While this is the tool, देखो वेरी ऑनेस्टली जिन लोगों के नाम आए हैं ना अखबार और इस सारी चीज़ों पे उन लोगों का सारे मुझे टीचर्स का नहीं पता था बट लाइक जो एक दो और सब लोग हैं लोगों को पता था पीपल हैड हर्ड रूमर्स लाइक जो
Yeah.
डिबेटिंग सोसाइटी में चल रही हैं बातें यार पीपल हैड
Hmm.
हर्ड रूमर्स I had heard rumors. Nobody know for a fact कि क्या हो रहा था, but people had heard rumors. DSP knew, man. DSP के पास डिबेटिंग सोसाइटी पाकिस्तान का supposedly लोग गए थे, उन्होंने बताया था.
Yeah.
These people nothing. That's a different story.
Yeah.
Like definitely when बच्चे आ रहे हैं, victims आ रहे हैं, आप सुने. This is not about and this is why this is important. Clarity जरूरी है. Victims आ रहे हैं, victims की सुने. But decision makers can't be people who use Facebook. Can't be people who just know how to tweet. They can't be the decision makers. They can't decide the fate of somebody's life.
No. Yeah. No, I agree. And that's why I completely disagree with cancel culture. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't think you can cancel someone, irrespective of what they've done. Like, I personally do believe in mercy being more valuable than justice. I would not kill anybody, no, irrespective of what they did, even if they killed someone or have them killed or
But
death
like
penalty.
somebody like Harvey Weinstein, you can just if he's in the prison, fine, उसे ना निकलने दो. Cause
Mm.
like he is an animal. Some people like this guy is a fucking a pig.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, and that's interesting, right? Because what is happening with cancel culture is that people are not ready to have a conversation. People are not ready to listen to one another. People are on extreme, either cancel or accept it. There is
Yeah.
no midway. And once you're canceled, you're not coming back.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know, a 15-year-old slapped supposedly somebody, and he's got cancelled. Like fuck, is he never coming back? You know.
Mean, he can come back. It's just this like social media like movement, this cancel
And
culture.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And and yeah, I just don't know. These are and I feel we need to talk more about it as much uncomfortable as it makes us. And that was
Yeah.
my point with our like propaganda posted the Lums post. So
Hmm.
पागल हो गए. And it
Yes.
was ridiculous, man, because we were reporting on something. और मैंने
Yeah.
ना यही कहा जब मेरी बात हो रही थी मैंने काफी लोगों ने चेक कराया कि यार ये क्या हम शायद पागल हो गए हैं शायद हमारा ही दिमाग खराब हो गया है कि हमने कुछ गलत किया है बिकॉज वो पोस्ट ऑलरेडी उधर थी सब चीजें ऑलरेडी थी हमने बस वेरीफाई करी ये सही पोस्ट है हमको झूठ तो नहीं बोलने लगे जो इंटरनेट पे चल रहा है
Yeah.
एंड एक्चुअली स्टार्टेड द कन्वर्सेशन बिकॉज द कन्वर्सेशन स्टार्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट हमें जी लोगों ने और हमें विक्टिम्स आए हैं कभी they never reached out who reached out to us were people definitely from lums कुछ लोग और they were literally saying आप ये निकाल दें because we haven't decided to put this information out yet but that information was already out
Yeah.
and also दूसरी ने बात की आपने तो हमसे किसी कंसेंट लिया ही नहीं but that doesn't make sense हमने तो विक्टिम्स का नाम ही लिया ऑलरेडी जो इन्फॉर्मेशन थी वो थी and the third thing, even on sensitivity, यार imagine करो ज़ारा UFT में if somebody gets harassed, if rampant harassment आ रही है, teachers harass कर रहे हैं लड़कियों को चुप करा रहे हैं, administration से कह रहे हैं आपको कह रहे हैं कि आपको वरना हम निकाल देंगे अगर आपने इसके बारे में बोला You think
Yeah,
Vice or any publication won't post about it? Pagal na ho jaye. Every developed country in the world will post about it.
of
And
course.
that's the problem with our hypocrisy, man. And that's the problem with our fake wokeness.
Yeah.
मुझे ना अब मैं बताता हूँ.
It's
You saw this
performance
also.
activism bullshit. Performance
PC
feminism.
point. Just for PC points.
Yeah.
These अब सारे नहीं. Some people have done. मैं बताता हूँ यार. I'll give you an example. You know, there's and what we're missing in Pakistan, I feel I was missing the word constructive criticism. You know,
Mm.
um, I was reached out by a LUM student for this incident. You know, people do reach out to me, and you know, I've always अगर कोई बात होती है मैं सुनता हूँ. एक दफा I remember they were there was this one activist group in Islamabad जिनकी कल प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस थी, and they like यहाँ 4 रात के बजे थे, and they like dude we need help, हमने सुना है ये करते हैं, हम ये करते हैं, we really need some kind of coverage. I'm like sure man, you know,
Yeah.
no worries, like I'll do it right now, no name, nothing, sure man, like help out. Plum student यार, these people harassed our colleagues. उनकी फैमिलीज को कॉल कर रहे हैं कि ये आर्टिकल बेसिकली स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्मिंग अस, हम आपके खिलाफ डेफेमेशन भेज देंगे, ये भेज देंगे. या दारा हमने आगा खान वगैरह के खिलाफ लिखा हुआ है, हमने मतलब कॉर्पोरेट कंपनी से खिलाफ लिखा हुआ है, एक वाटर ब्रांड के खिलाफ लिखा हुआ है मशहूर. हमें डेफेमेशन डरना था, माना डरते. एनीवेज हमने कहा श्योर, बट लाइक वी गॉट एनॉयड. अब जब मुझे मैसेज आया उसमें मुझे वो लड़की कह रही है यू शुड नो अबाउट योर सिविक ड्यूटीज मैन. Man,
That's
I got
civic duties. Kuch
I got so
so
pissed.
it's
This
not
was
a
happening. I
citizen.
got so pissed. I really thought, you know, there has to be a message. ठीक है, मैंने शायद ज़्यादा गुस्सा किया. देखो, I'm not perfect, man. I learn as I go. I'm very,
Yeah.
very
We all do.
honest about it. But
Yeah.
I don't shy back. I don't shy back from what I do. I principally felt she was wrong and she needed to learn कि आप एक जब प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में जाते हो, you need to have a conversation. You can't pose assumptions on anyone. उस पोस्ट में मैंने कहा यार आप प्रोपेगेंडा को जितना मर्जी क्रिटिसाइज करें, जलील करें, वो आपका हक है, आपका राइट है, आपको दिया जाता है, मैं कुछ कह ही नहीं
Hmm.
सकता आपको.
Hmm.
लेकिन आप पर्सनल लोगों के पास नहीं जा सकते, स्पेशली जब आप बात करें कि प्राइवेसी देनी चाहिए, तो आपको मुझे भी प्राइवेसी देनी चाहिए. और
बिल्कुल.
स्पेशली आप इसे स्टार्ट नहीं कर सकते नो बॉडी सिविक ड्यूटीज, और फिर मेरा ओपिनियन भी आपको सुनना चाहिए.
Yeah.
मैंने सारा सेंसर करके आई थिंक ये लगाया, एंड आई टोल्ड कि यार मुझे इसके खिलाफ कुछ नहीं है, वो प्रॉब्ली मैं ज्यादा गुस्से में आ गया हूँगा. लेकिन उसके नीचे दिस वन आई कॉल हर कैरन फॉर दिस
Okay.
फॉर दिस पॉडकास्ट. बीबी ने पूरा एक रिप्लाई लिखा, और अब मैं भूल गया हूँ क्या बेसिकली उसने कहा, व्हाई डू यू थिंक इट्स योर गॉड गिवन राइट दैट यू हैव कंसेंट. वो नहीं टिपिकल वोक पीसी वाली बात करना कि समहाउ, क्योंकि मैंने कहीं अच्छा मजे की बात है, मैंने कहीं लिखा भी नहीं हुआ था, बोला भी नहीं था कि इट्स माय गॉड गिवन राइट और एनीथिंग. आई हैड जस्ट लिटरली टोल्ड कि यार आप हरास नहीं हमें कर सकते, और
Mhm.
हमारा हक बनता है इसके बारे में पोस्ट करना, क्योंकि इसके बारे में बात होनी चाहिए. और अगर आप ये जो बात हमें कहने से कि आप हमें जो कह रहे हैं कि हमने गलत किया, हमने तो उसके बारे में बात स्टार्ट की है, अब हमें कहने के बजाय आप एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को कहें, क्योंकि लम्स कभी भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के पास नहीं जाता. ये पहली दफा नहीं लम्स में हुआ, बहुत बार होता है, ये एलएससी में भी बहुत बार चीजें हुई हैं, लेकिन हमेशा चुप करवा दिया जाता है.
Yeah.
इसीलिए कोई बात नहीं होती, सोल्यूशन निकल आती है, जैसे एलएससी में हुआ है कि जी 7 बजे लड़कियां चली जाएंगी और लड़कियां हमेशा शलवार कमीज पहनेंगी. यू नो, इससे किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता. एंड that's the problem. That's what I was trying to tell her. But this girl, this fake, this brown Karen thought जिसने जिंदगी में कभी कुछ नहीं किया होगा किसी के लिए, कभी कुछ नहीं किया
Mhm.
होगा, बट इसने अज्यूम किया कि मैंने कुछ अज्यूम नहीं किया, चलो मैं ये निकाल लेता हूँ, बट लाइक इसने अज्यूम किया क्योंकि मैंने बस एक पोस्ट कर दिया है तो ये इसने गलती की होगी, इसने किया होगा कि इसका एक गॉड गिवन राइट है कि इसका एक कंसेंट, ये इस तरह समझता है. और उस पर उसने लिखा एंड में ना बड़ा लिखा, यू शुड बी अशेम्ड हमजा गजनी. एंड इट्स द फनीएस्ट कमेंट बिकॉज़ इट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस.
Yeah.
एंड आई फील these are the biggest, these people are the problem.
Yeah.
Because these people just do it for their PC points. Oh यार हम बैठे हुए हैं सुकून से, जरा यार हम तो पाकिस्तान है भी नहीं, just you know I just want to get some 20 PC points today. Just people will think how woke I am, but they will do nothing. And these people are the problem. Why? Because asli change Nazara, let's be honest, it's not gonna come from a status. It's not gonna come from a comment. It's gonna come standing outside an institution, risking your degree. इसका नहीं
Absolutely.
होगा. Oh, यार आप पास भी हो जाए, you can't have it both. I'm sorry, world is unfair. You can't have both of these things. You need to be ready to sacrifice. That's the effort you put in. That's the sacrifice you make. That's
It's true.
that's the power of believing in something. वरना
Yeah.
if it was that easy, हर बंदा कर लेता.
Yeah.
You know, कायदे आजम लंदन में ही रहते और सब I'm here, I'm making a few phone calls, I'm just gonna post a status. But
Yeah.
guys, आपने रिपोर्ट नहीं करना, मीडिया रिपोर्ट नहीं करना जब तक मैं नहीं कहूंगा. It's like
Mhm.
I'm gonna be London. Just like it's a little and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's very performative, and that's just the reality of it. Like, and just to use myself as an example, like I really, really had something to put out in the world, and I got a lot of shit for it, but
Exactly, and exactly that article, and like even how Vice misinterpreted it. But that's another thing. Like, and that was even like I feel what exactly happened. I think the intention, what you were trying to tell, and when we had a discussion, was something totally else of
Mhm.
how Vice portrayed it. Vice kind of made it like a very clickbait piece, right?
Extremely, yeah, extremely.
Extremely clickbait, and it was
I
so
was
weird.
talking about like the necessity of sex education and like the um the repercussions of not knowing your body and what you need. Yeah.
And you had talked about like breast cancer and everything in some other articles. I remember you told me. और
Yeah.
उसके बारे में हमने कोई जिक्र ही नहीं किया.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
But
just sensationalism. People love sensationalism. People don't actually want to learn about what they need to know for their own benefit and society's benefit and
and I can bet you, even with that article, this fake Karen, that's
uh,
why fake Karen, this brown Karen would have been up your ass.
yeah,
I can promise you. You
yeah.
can tell. You and I both know brown Karen would have done that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure she may have already. I'm sure I have a brown Karen.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. I feel what one thing I can, like I can take out from this is I know how cliche it sounds. Like I won't even say live and let live. Like I feel as a society we need to think यार हम अगर हर बंदे हर प्रिंसिपल हर चीज से अगर लड़ पड़ेंगे ना तो हम कहीं
Mhm.
नहीं जाएंगे.
Yeah.
यू नो हम ये गाओ ज़ारा ने आर्टिकल लिखा है नहीं गलत. इसने इसके बारे में बात की है गलत. इसने आई डोंट नो इसका मजहब कुछ और है खराब. यू नो दिस गाय इज एन अहमदी ही कांट बी इन आवर फाइनेंस वो कांट बी इन इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजरी इस तरह. तो देन पीपल आई गेस फिर हमारी वो नहीं होती वो जो एक पंजाबी में ना कोट वो है मुहावरा कोठे विच कौन है तो कौन ही सही.
Uh,
बस हम हर बंदे से ना हम बस नाराज है और हम somehow we think I don't know. I think we'll go all other off topic, but yeah, I feel there is so much hypocrisy in all this, and it's good. I think it's also like even talking right now, I do feel okay, like while there's a part of me that thinks, क्या मुझे जो मेरी ग्रेड 4 की इस्लामियत की टीचर ने चपेड़ मारी थी इज शी कैंसल्ड नाउ लाइक आई आई सेइंग मेरी मिस मुजम्मिला इज फ्रिकिंग कैंसल्ड. Like, fuck, man, Miss Musamala wasn't that bad. She probably slapped a lot of kids.
yeah, and she wasn't told that slapping is wrong. Like, so
Yeah,
many
like
how we're
the
socialized. That's the problem.
and the
Socialization.
truth is we didn't mind it. Like वो डस्टर पैक की हम सारे इस तरह रुकते थे हम कहते मिस मुजम्मिला आपने मिस कर दिया है. And Miss Muzammila was much older than Miss Muzammila का बेटा हमसे बड़ा था. It
Uh,
was like a very. So Miss Muzammila is not, I can't cancel Miss Muzammila as much as I'm indifferent about where Miss
no,
Muzammila is in her life. Like she didn't have that. She wasn't one of those teachers who had an impact on me or anything.
right.
So, but at this, like yeah, there were some good ones. I remember the good ones. They never hard वगैरह, but there were some man जो ठीक है मारते थे. It was, but that was the culture then. I remember यार मतलब बच्चों के पेरेंट्स आके कहते थे आप इसे एक और लगाएं. This was common, man. This was a society we lived in. Now
And
the fact is, the solution to that is not canceling.
no,
The solution to that is a discussion.
it is.
Albeit we are canceling out harassment or rape or all those fucked up things. Obviously, like that's an obvious here. But 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 these kind of things, there needs to be a conversation. Outright canceling is not gonna help us go anywhere. एट द सेम टाइम एंड दैट्स माई प्रॉब्लम ज़ारा कि मैं ये बात करके भी लेकिन सोचता हूँ कि जो लोग बाहर निकल रहे हैं एटलीस्ट कुछ अवेयरनेस होगी.
Yeah.
Like the fact is maybe the next person who will be going into A levels or university or whatever
Hmm.
will have that knowledge. Maybe
Yeah.
ragging खत्म हो कुछ तो effect होगा.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing. Like it's very necessary to be able to talk about these things, have a discussion, create the dialogue, because these things are so normalized. It's frightening. And it really needs the fact that we can have honest conversation needs to be normalized without this denial and this, like, you know,
Maybe
gaslighting.
it's one of those necessary doses, bubonic plague type है जो गया वो गया
हाँ,
लेकिन जरूरी था
exactly.
क्योंकि काफी गंद भी जाएगा.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, as- I guess you could say that, yeah. But it's just, yeah. There are a lot of institutions in Pakistan that obviously need to reform as well. Ek to, military is obviously the biggest issue. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
हमारा नया Pakistan is shattered dreams now because everybody has to bow down to the military, unfortunately, and that's problematic in itself because the military don't practice much empathy. So, you know,
Yeah.
and there's all these things that are just so deeply ingrained that need to be. I don't like the word unlearned. Like, I don't like to unlearn something because I think that you can't just unlearn something and leave the space blank. You need to learn something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we need to relearn the things that we're taught, and we need to reassess, okay, where we're at, and this applies to.
I think relearn as well, and also like to the parents, to
Mhm.
elders, to listen when their children speak to them, and even make an effort to listen, because school is school is not a very friendly place, man.
Oh,
Especially in a place like Pakistan, we can tell there is no checkup. So
oh no,
yeah, parents need to
bullying is
do.
also normalized.
Bullying is also normalized, and the
That's the
fact
thing.
that
You're bullied.
parents भी उससे पहले schools में गए होंगे, उन्हें पता होगा, but they also thought it was normal. That's
Yeah, because of this. So because A is this Safarish culture, which normalizes bullying in itself, right? Okay, like, you have to do whatever you want from me because I have connections. This is like the biggest issue amongst, like, you know, bullying in itself. And then so minus that, ke oh, tum jante ho mera baap kaun hai. Minus that bullshit.
that was more of like I think an Islamabad thing though.
Oh, really? Okay.
हाँ
Well,
बाप
that's
माने तो
fair.
और मेरे को like चलो भाई माल्टा या पता नहीं मिनी गॉल.
Yeah, okay, that's true. And Islamabad is a totally different place. Like, it's someone mentioned this the other day. I think they were from Lahore or Karachi. I can't remember. And they were just like, Islamabad is like not a real place. Like, it doesn't feel like it's part of Pakistan. And I'm like, you know what? That's right, because it's really strange. Like, you have to have a certain amount of money to live comfortably there, and it's just for rich people basically. So it's really strange, but yeah, there was a lot of name dropping growing up in Islamabad. A lot of
Yeah,
them got about.
I've heard
Yeah,
Islamabad born in. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, man, I think it comes down to like having some, as you said, relearning things. Yeah, also forgetting some things,
yeah.
forgetting some values जो हम सोचते हैं कि लड़की शलवार कमीज वगैरह ही पहनेगी तो कुछ नहीं होगा.
Oh
That's
God.
not true. Like, let them, it's not about, even the fact is a lot of people think they're bringing modesty by for convincing their girls to wear shalwar kameez and
Yeah.
all that. क्या रहा, you said काजल ना लगाओ, sleeveless ना पहनो, ये ना वो.
Yeah.
Parents should know the truth. इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
Ah, nee, this is the biggest
Yeah.
misconception
Then
that
the fact होगा इससे क्या क्या वो they lie to you. They'll
yeah.
probably still want to wear sleeveless, in college, and आपको कैसे पता चलेगा? The
Dude,
fact that they're probably
literally.
never going to discuss anything in life with you then.
No, exactly. And you literally, it's this is the biggest misconception, and this is actually so annoying. And, like, an example is, I've even written about this, is like the normalization of, like, wearing, like you have to wear a bra all the time. Like, this is just something. Okay, you have to wear a bra, like, or you have to wear a shawl, like driver ke samne jo bhi hai, right? And it's like, why aren't men taught ke, like, why aren't men taught ke, like, otherwise? Why is the woman shamed? Why is the woman responsible for her own body when she should be free in her movement and her whatever expression, because she's not doing it for men, right? Like, she's
Yeah.
it's her body. And and that's the issue, okay, like, mard need to be told that they need to be educated, they need to be taught, they need to be socialized as young babies about these things more
यार
so.
वो भी ज़रा वो भी सोशलाइजेशन सही तरह नहीं होती ना। मसला दोनों जगह ही है, दोनों जगह ही सोशलाइजेशन ही आपने ख़राब की है।
हाँ
मतलब आपने लड़कों को भी बस ये मतलब हमने यही डिफरेंट टैक्टिक्स दिखाए ना। वी हैड सेट प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ हाउ वी नीड टू टीच सन्स एंड व्हाट वी नीड टू टीच डॉटर्स, बट उन दोनों में से हमने बहुत मेन मेन न्यूट्रिएंट समझो उनकी डाइट से ख़त्म कर दिए।
हम्म
हमने लड़कों को कहा जी आप एम्पैथी लूज कर दें, लड़कियों का यार आप ये चीजें आर वैल्यूज व्हिच वर नॉट नेसेसरली वैल्यूज। दीज वर जस्ट पेरेंट्स हु वर टोल्ड कि आपने ये करना है, ये इसको मॉडेस्टी कहते हैं, इससे आप डायरेक्ट जन्नत में जाएंगे और आपके बच्चे भी जन्नत में चले जाएंगे।
हाँ
सो बाबा जी की बूटी दोनों को दी है उन्होंने, एंड एंड दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम यू नो
yeah, because now when in especially in a Pakistani context, like I can speak again on my personal experiences, is that Pakistani men generally, like not all, again, I don't want to generalize or discriminate, but generally, like a lot of them don't like me because we're taught that a woman who is opinionated and like a little bit aggressive and maybe has a more loud demeanor is like, bye. And it's like men who are more effeminate and like whatever it is, like it's the same thing. It's just it's like the understanding that these like that gender can be like different things. Like a man is not does not fall under this definition of
I just feel like this is just people need to grow up. That's
yeah, of
about
course.
that. Like people
It's
just
just that.
need to freaking grow up.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's just yeah, it's really oh man, yeah.
Anyways, man, this is good.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. I'm
आपको
glad we got to
उर्दू
talk about
उर्दू शायरी का भी मुझे पता थोड़ा बहुत शौक है। अगर
it.
कोई आखिरी लफ्जों पे आप छोड़ना चाहें कन्वर्सेशन, एनी लास्ट वर्ड्स,
Um,
कोई शेर
Koi share. Okay, like
जो
let's just.
रिफ्लेक्ट करे इस कन्वर्सेशन को।
It's such a classic share, and I will end this conversation by saying, "और भी दुख है ज़माने में मोहब्बत के सिवा." Remember that, kids.
Sir, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of Yehudi Sausage with Zahra.